Well, to discuss the achievements made so far, the challenges still faced in Africa, we're now joined by Dr. Adams Oloo, a political scientist from the University of Nairobi. Dr. Oloo, of course, 1963, the Organization of African Unity was founded, and now 53 years later, looking back or looking at where we are today, what would you say are some of the key achievements that have been made on the African continent?
Well, basically, 5 decades later, one of the things you have to talk about is modernization. We were basically a continent that was still steeped into a traditional economy, so to speak. But now you find that across the continent, whether you're talking of infrastructure, whether you're talking of technology, whether you're talking of communication, you can say that although Africa hasn't caught up exactly with the rest of the world, but at least you can say that they have made quite huge leaps forward. The second issue is that most of Africa was based on an agrarian economy, basically depending on agriculture. But again, we have seen that we are now mixing both agriculture and industrialization. The other area where there has been a lot of change is that we have regional economic communities, whereby if you go to the southern part of Africa, you have SADC. If you go to the western part of Africa, you have ECOWAS. If you come to East Africa, you have the East African Community. And if you go to North Africa, you have the Maghreb Union. So it's kind of Africa said that together, although under regions, we can make another step forward.
And Dr. Oloo, as we mark the sort of, the historic significance of this particular occasion, and we look back on the hopes and the dreams and the ideals of Africa's founding fathers, do you think we've strayed far from those original ideas that inspired the formation of the OAU? Unfortunately,
yes. If you look at when the OAU was being formed, there were 2 schools of thought. One led by Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, which was basically say, secure the political kingdom first. In other words, he wanted a United States of Africa. The other one was Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, who was saying, no, let's go incremental, let's form regional economic communities first. But you find that in either case, there has been more of infighting, or you can say more on paper rather than in reality, so that Africa is still torn not only at the national front, whereby you have a lot of civil wars, but continent-wide, you'll find that the African Union that succeeded the Organization of African Unity has not so much to show for its over 50 years existence.
And when it comes to that very question of this United States of Africa, something that has been advocated by a number of leaders over the past 5 decades, do you think there's any likelihood at all that African states might eventually enter into some kind of political federation like the European Union?
Again, I'll be a pessimist on this and say no. As you correctly point out, in the 21st century, again, you had 2 opposing camps. One led by the late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, saying African Union now and United States of Africa, and the current president, no, the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, saying no, let's go incremental. And that's how the new Partnership for African Development came up with this vision of African presidents having the African peer review mechanism, which is kind of floundering, so to speak, because African countries are not giving it the necessary attention. And therefore, I must say that if they walk up today, they would say, you've let us down.
We'll have to leave it there, but thanks very much for that analysis. Dr. Adams Oloo, as we look back on the achievements and the challenges that lie ahead as we mark Africa Day.